Hi, this is Moon Robin. So this time I'm gonna talk about some news with you guys again, and I'm going to talk about seven news. The first one is Israel and Hamas. They cease fire. The second one is about a stock market raise, and the second one I will talk to you about the inflation of the U.S. Economy, and then the third one is a stock market raise, and the fourth one is about a startup that raised $180 million. And the fifth one is that Jeff Bezos had launched a rocket to the sky. The sixth one is that the people attend Trump's inauguration has the billionaires that attend adds up to like $1.3 trillion worth of people's value. The last one is a Canadian one. It's about the election of the Canadian election. Since I'm Canadian, so I'm talking about the election of Canada. So these are all the news I'm going to talk about. First, let's start with Hamas and Israel. So this whole thing started as Hamas in 2023 October 7. They killed more than 1,100 people in Israel. They went to Israel and attacked them and killed a 1,100 people, and then they also kidnapped 240 people and hold them hostage. And in November 2023, they did temporary ceasefire and come to some kind of agreement that Hamas released 100 people. But then afterwards, they start fighting again because they couldn't come to agreement. In January 17, Israel have approved ceasefire. First, Israel was like, okay, fine. And then Hamas also agreed to ceasefire, but then they didn't come to agreement because they want all of the hostages to be released. Like right now, there's estimated 98 persons still in Hamas, and about 60 people is still alive, and they want Hamas to first release 33 people, including some US military people. And when Hamas agreed to it, Trump tweeted that we will also release some people from Middle East, and he says that he will do all he can in his administration to protect the U.S. Citizen, U.S. people, and as well as our allies. And Biden administration also said that as they work on the ceasefire of Israel and Hamas, Trump administration will have to implement it. It doesn't matter who did more work. What matters is that it worked. They did ceasefire. So that's the first news. In the second news, there is a raise in inflation to 2.9% in December 2024. It's a new high since July 2024. It's been 5 months and it's high again. Usually they say in December it is low. So what does inflation do? Inflation makes borrowing like mortgages or corporate loan more expensive, so it's better to have lower inflations. So due to COVID-19, in 2022, the inflation is so high, it's like 9%. It took 2.5 years to have the inflation down again. So right now, the inflation is finally down, and in December, it's usually have to be low, but now it's high again. But at least it's not 9%, it's 2.9%. But we'll just hope that the inflation goes down. The upside is the stock market also jumped, so which is the next news. The S&P 500 is increased by 1.3%, and Nasdaq is increased by 1.8%. Since like 2025, there are 4 times that it increased by 1%, which is really high compared to the previous years, which will only the earliest will happen is in February that this kind of jump happens. They say it's partially due to Trump being elected as president. Next news, it's a little fun one, is talking about a little startup that does AI avatar that they raised $180 million. The company of the startup is called Synthesia. So they focus on humans and videos and presenters instead of focus on like making everything happen. The CEO of Synthesia think that the narrow focus on human proxies instead of on like everything can keep them in the game of the AI production compared to like big companies. So they are a small company, and then because they have a narrow focus on human proxies, that they will last longer. And the next one is that Jeff Bezos have launched a rocket to the orbit. So Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin have launched New Glenn rocket into the orbit. It's for a project to carry NASA's escapade mission to Mars. So it's for that. It cost Jeff Bezos, like this is a test rocket. It cost Jeff Bezos more than $1 billion to make. The first part of the mission is successful, but then the second part of the mission it's not as successful. So they didn't recover the reusable booster onto like a base in the Atlantic Ocean. They're supposed to have this booster coming back, but then it failed to do that. But at least they've launched the tester into the orbit. Yeah, it's a 6-hour mission to test the connection between the ground and the orbit. Jeff Bezos has said that in the space industry, there can be more winners, like SpaceX can be successful, his Blue Origin can be successful, and there are companies that have yet to be made can also be very successful in the future. So that's his comment on his making like rocket ships. Next one is a funny one. For Trump's inauguration, the total billionaires combined is worth of $1.3 trillion worth of billionaires that went to Trump's inauguration. Okay, let me just read the list of people. I have write down some. There's a longer list. Though so there's Jeff Bezos is 239 billion, Mark Zuckerberg 211 billion, Elon Musk 433 billion, Sam Altman, which is 1.1 million, Tim Cook 2.2 billion, Marianne Adelson 31.9 billion, Rupert Murdoch 22 billion, Bernard Arnold 179 billion, and Mukesh Ambani 98 billion. He's the richest man in India. So you see, and there's the list goes on and on and on. They're all very rich, and they all add to like $1.3 trillion to the Trump's inauguration. And the last news, not last but not least, is a Canadian news. So in Canada, Trudeau, it's from a few news combined together that Trudeau have resigned, and then there are like some candidates competing for the position. There's the former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney. There's member of House of Commons Chrystia Freeland. There's government House Leader Karina Gould. Chrystia is running for Liberal. She says she will have the fighter attitude to hold up with Trump. And then Mark Carney, he says he admits that Justin Trudeau did give some money back to the people and will deliver a middle class tax break. While Karina Gould says she will also run for Liberal and she will continue with where Justin Trudeau left off. So that's her stand. And she says once she gets elected, she will be representing the newer generation. So these are the three candidates. You can do more research on it. I'll post their name under the description below. You can search up on them and see who's like more capable of being the Canadian Prime Minister. So that's it for the news. I hope to see you next week for more news. Thank you.